Barakata Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Bread and Circuses Are Dead. Bread and Circus. Pretty much this is a title that came to mind earlier this morning. As you can see here before you, this is a picture of the Colosseum in Rome that was built by Vespasian, finished by Titus. Bread and circuses, the exact phrase to use when people are too busy playing to notice their country is falling apart. And that's what's happened. You know, people here in America were so distracted by these bread and circuses and everything in their everyday life that they didn't see that their country was falling apart right in front of them, right before their eyes. They didn't even notice it. The only time they notice it is now when they got people in this frantic panic, bugging out, buying up all the goddamn toilet tissue, which they're bringing out some here and there. But the point is, these people are bugged out. And this event with the so-called coronavirus could be the event that shuts all of that down for good, period. Because when we watch movies like 1984, which I suggest you brothers watch if you haven't watched it, they show you a totally futuristic dystopian society where everything is controlled, your every movement, everything you do, everything is rationed out to you by the government. You're told when to come, when to go, when to work, when to get up, when to go to sleep, what you can watch, what you can't watch, what you could eat, what you can't eat, how much you could eat, how much you can't eat. And this is pretty much what it's going down the road to. And like I said, the name of the lesson is Bread and Circuses Are Dead. They could resume after this whole situation blows over, if it blows over. But if it persists and moves on and goes into the mark of the beast, which is a microchip, so on and so forth, then that could be the end of all the bread and circuses, because the bread and circuses was pretty much set up for distraction. And this is why scriptures like this are written. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 11 real quick. It says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. So these entertainers, movies, music, whether it's hip-hop, R&B, whatever genre of music it is, the different movies, Hollywood and all of that is all set up for distraction. And these are the devices of Esau set up, which in the ancient Roman Empire were called bread and circuses. And they were used to keep the minds of the people entertained, the citizens of Rome entertained, and keep their mind off of the hardcore issues that ruled and governed the government back then. All right, so let's go to the first article I have. It's called Decline of the Empire, Bread and Circuses in America. Bloomberg columnist Alice Schroeder recently departed from her usual fare, Warren Buffett, in an article called The Danger of Living on Bread and Circuses. And these bread and circuses, this entertainment circuit, has been a very lucrative and a very useful tool in the hands of the so-called elite, because they have, just like you have some people that are addicted to drugs, some people are addicted to alcohol, some people are addicted to prescription medications. You have people that are addicted to entertainment, to being distracted, because they stay on opioids, they stay high all the time, drunk all the time, because they don't want to face the reality of the world. So the best way for them to be oblivious to it is to stay distracted one way or the other. And this is what's happening. The American public, other nations also, but mainly the American public has been addicted to these bread and circuses, to this entertainment you know, mode in this country, and it has dulled the senses of these people out here to where they will fight. They won't have enough sense not to fight at a grocery store for some goddamn toilet tissue. You know? And this is going to lead into the next point, but let's read some of this. It says, it says Schroeder compares contemporary American society to the infamous bread and circuses of ancient Rome. Rome in the first 2 centuries AD faced a yawning gulf between rich and poor. And this is what it's about. It's about the rich and the poor. And we know, dealing with the rich and the poor situation, that the international bankers that are in control of this society have a monopoly on the world economy and finance. Let's go to Proverbs 27:6. And this is how they were able to control it. Salaka, not 25:6, 22. Proverbs 22. And this is how they were able to control it. Proverbs 22:6. Nope, that's not it either. Okay, 22:7. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. So through usury, which is interest, compounding interest, this is how they were able to make slaves pretty much of the citizens of the world. And right now, this debt that the so-called American public owes, it just keeps building up more and more. So eventually, these international bankers are going to call in their debts. And what happens when you can't pay a debt? You become the commodity, the slave to them, so that you can pay off this debt. And they know this, that this has been the same thing over and over, done over and over in history. We go back to ancient Egypt. We go back to Joseph, one of the 12 patriarchs. When he was made the second in command of the Egyptian empire, what happened? There was a time where there was 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. And everybody's storehouses started to dwindle. So they had to bring their money and their cattle and different things to trade for this particular grain so that they can be sustained and eat. After they ran out of money, they ran out of everything they eventually gave up their land and themselves as servants, permanent servants to the Pharaoh, which means 5% of everything that they made, if I'm not mistaken on the percentage, was given over to the Pharaoh, pretty much for the endurance of that particular person's life. And this is where the situation where we're at today, to where the bankers are starting to call in their debts. They're making a last ditch attempt to mess these people up before they call in their debt to make these people permanent slaves. And they're going to do it to the population of the world. And the way they're going to do it is by the modern day oil, which is the microchip, which is the mark of the beast. So the rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. So going back to this article, Rome is in the first 2 centuries faced a yawning gulf between rich and poor. The mighty empire built on tribute reached its geographic limits. So America has reached its geographic limits. And what happens when you reach your geographic limits? You don't have anyone else to conquer. You don't have any more riches and resources to extract from these nations. So your empire starts to dwindle from there. So pretty much America has reached the apex or the limit of their empire. Let's go to the book of Job, chapter 14 and verse 5. It says, seeing his days are determined, because there was a set amount of time set up for this devil to rule. And we're coming down to the waning years of this American / Babylon the Great Empire. The number of his months are with thee, because the Most High has a cutoff date. It says, thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. So there are boundaries that were given to this devil where he can't pass. He can't pass as far as making his rulership last a second longer. and he can't go past the boundaries set for him to conquer. That's why at the age of 32, Alexander the Greek, the freak, got sick and died because he had reached the boundaries of the empire that the Lord had given him to conquer. All right, so going back, it says its economy created few exportable goods. Does that not sound similar to America? To where anything that comes to America has to be imported. This is an import nation, not an export nation. They don't export things out of here to send it to different nations. Nations send their goods and their wares over here. That's why places like China have become so rich, because by reason of her costliness. Everything is made in China because it's cheaper, and it comes over here to the U.S. and is sold to the U.S., and the Chinese become richer. Singapore becomes richer. Taiwan becomes richer. Thailand becomes richer, or whatever nation is sending their goods and their wares over here. And this is why at the end of this whole situation, when America is finally destroyed, these nations are going to be crying, not because they're going to feel sorry for this hoe, but because they're not going to be able to make any more dough off the hoe. It says slaves acquired by conquest, right? Did not the so-called Negroes, so-called West Indians and so-called Haitians, when they brought over here slaves, did not the Spaniards and the English, the British and all them, did not they make slaves of the natives that were already here, the northern kingdom of the nation of Israel? Slaves acquired by conquest built most of its bridges, roads, and aqueducts, and took jobs in farming. Wait a minute, did not that happen? Eventually, after the slave had enough to get free or whatever the case is, did not they become sharecroppers? Right? It says mining and construction. So they got into these different facets of the Roman Empire. As this cheaper labor replaced Roman citizens, idle, unemployed, hungry people filled the capital. And this is why you have places like Mexico and Central America and different other countries coming here and working for cheaper labor, cutting out Esau, mainly Esau and the natural citizens of America out of certain jobs. And they're feeling the pinch, they're feeling the crunch, because this is all prophecy. Let's go from there to Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter. And before we go there, let's go to Ecclesiastes, the 10th chapter, I believe it is. Because what you have to remember is, let me see. What you have to remember is that money is needed in this society to make things run. And when you're used to getting a certain wage and living a certain lifestyle, and then you have to downgrade, it's a step downward. And people do not want to go backwards. They want to keep going forward. They want more money, more money, more money. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 12. For wisdom is a defense and money is a defense. So this citizen that was used to making so much is now in a situation where they are forced to live more and more like a peasant, because they're not able to make the same amount of money that they did before. So the word defense is tazal, shadow, shade, shade as protection. So money is a protection, a hedge. You have something called a hedge fund. So money is a defense. Wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense. And remember, and notice that it used wisdom first as a defense, and money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. Now let's go back to the 10th chapter and the 20th verse. I'm sorry, not the 20th verse. the right here, 19th verse. A feast is made for laughter, and wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things. Because in order for you to live, you pretty much have to have a certain amount of money, which is the word for money is kasap. And the word for answereth is ainah. To answer, respond, testify, speak. You ever heard the term money talks, bullshit walks? There was a precept that came to mind. I'm trying to see if I could remember. Let's see. A feast is made for laughter, and wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things. So they do need this hedge fund. People do need money, Salakia. But the problem is that with this cheaper labor and these so-called immigrants, they're making the certain jobs that were available to the average American that they could get a certain wage for, made it cheaper. And the average American being spoiled, they're not going to work for $5 when they're used to working for $15. See? Some psychological ill shit. Inside joke. All right, so now let's go back. It says the Caesars created make work and part-time jobs, subsidized housing. Is that not what they have here? And are they not talking about, giving people money? The welfare and all this other stuff, that food stamps that has been given out, and doled out grain, meaning that there was a certain amount of food that was given by the government. These are rations. And this is the same exact thing that's going on here in America. It says and this is why people, at one point people thought that the economy was getting better, and this, that, and the other, because that's what it was. It wasn't in the Apocrypha, but I can't remember what it was. Let me see. So cheap. Second Ezra 16 and 21. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. And the more that you notice, like they soften the blow. They say, no, it's going to be okay. We got stuff coming in. The National Guard is coming in. They're coming to help. Trucks are still coming in. They're, just be patient, and after a while they keep shutting down one state, 2 states, 3 states. They keep shutting things down. They keep putting the stranglehold on the American people and on the world population, by starting to close them off slowly but surely. So people went from panicking to getting toilet tissue and water to now you go to most stores, there's no meat on the shelf. Some here there's still some, but some places there's no meat on the shelf. No canned, a lot of canned stuff is gone. Pasta's gone. The tomato sauce and all that stuff is gone. The milk, the eggs, no eggs. You see. And I just want to say this, you brothers, if you low on supplies, there's nothing wrong with you going to the store and getting stuff to put in your home. The Lord, that's not going to save us. The Lord is going to protect us when the time comes. But if you have the opportunity to go and get it, go and get it. It's just like if you're in a hole and you pray to the Lord to get you out, and somebody throws you a rope down. What are you going to do? You're going to look at the rope and hope the rope pull you out, or you're going to try to pull yourself out. You see? But let's say the case be that we find ourselves in a position where there's nothing there, then the Lord is going to step in and provide. So if you do need some stuff, there's nothing wrong with going to grab a few things for your crib. If you need it. Don't be, I'm not going to go because the Lord said He's going to take care. Yeah, the Lord is going to take care of us, when the time comes. But now you have the ability to go get it. Go get it. So it says, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. So this situation is bringing a great confusion. And what's happening is now that the bread and circuses is cut off, now people are forced to face reality. Because now they can't turn to the game. They can't turn to the movies. They can't turn to their different forms of entertainment that they're used to keep their mind occupied and away from the hardcore issues. Now they are forced to face these issues because all of the distraction is pushed out of the way. The distraction is gone. All right, so there's going to be great confusion. It says, so they doled out the grain. Even more, they found was needed a people that yawns is ripe for revolt. And these people that have been yawning, they're ripe for revolt, wrote Jerome Caropino in Daily Life in Ancient Rome. The emperors added holidays until eventually the Romans spent half their days attending gladiator games, public executions, and chariot races. Disgusted, the satirist Juvenal accused his fellow citizens of selling out for bribes of bread and circuses. The Romans did nothing to prove him wrong until 2 centuries later the empire was divided forever and Rome was sacked by Visigoths. And there's more, Lord's will, we're going to read this. But this is what's happening. What you see happening right now with this so-called coronavirus scare is causing people to act without a logic. They're pretty much went full retard. They didn't go half retard. They didn't go a quarter retard. They didn't go 3/4 retard. They went full retard. And the more stranglehold these devils put upon these people, the more retarded they're going to get, which is going to turn them into what? Zombies. And that's what all these different zombie movies are about, The Walking Dead and all that. Zombie. Definition of zombie: a willless and speechless human, as in voodoo belief and fictional stories, held to have died and been supernaturally reanimated. The supernatural power that, according to voodoo belief, may enter into a dead body. A person held to resemble the so-called walking dead. And that's what these people are. They're nothing more than the walking dead. So those zombies that you see walking aimlessly, trying to eat these people, trying to get at them, these are the average American or the world citizens that have no clue of what the hell is going on. They're just going along with the program. And then when all hell breaks loose, they're going to turn on each other. There's this video I want to watch. I usually go to Truth Stream Media, I believe it's called. These two Edomites, a man and a woman, and they go into like different scenarios of things that are going on and to mind control and all of that. So Lord's will, if I get a chance, I want to check out the one of the newest videos up. I'm not sure if it's new or if it's been up for a while, but it just came up in my feed. I got to check it out. But pretty much that's what's happening. This fear is causing these people to lose all sense of logic, to lose all sense of intellect, to be able to function. And they're going to function on pure emotion, pure rage, like animals. It says, a person markedly strange in appearance or behavior, but the main good one, a person held to resemble the so-called walking dead. And this is what these people are. They are nothing more than the walking dead. And the reason why I read this through the Spirit, definition of zombie, is because it leads me to the next. Let's see. Just bear with me 1 second. Scripture came to mind. Beautiful. Here it goes. 2 Ezra 15 and 19. Let me go there. Oh, you know what? Let me go. 2 Ezra 15. That's 19. I'll start at 17. A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled. And we seeing that happening now, but it's still on a small scale. Wait till they fully put the lockdown. Like yesterday, they finally said that all 50 states have, at least one citizen that's infected with the so-called coronavirus. So now that gives them the right and the excuse that they need to shut down everything, shut down the borders, shut down the ability for people to come and go. Out there in San Francisco, hopefully them brothers will do a lesson on it. Out there in San Francisco, there's a 48-hour lockdown. I'm sorry, a 24-hour lockdown for 3 weeks, to where you can't come or go or nothing. I mean, I don't know if I believe they're still able to go to work, and if they got to get, groceries and or have doctor appointments or stuff like that. But for the most part, they're on lockdown. They can't go and come freely like they did. It says, for because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor. And they're going to turn into zombies. They're going to turn into willless, soulless, walking dead. And their only thought in mind is survival. It says, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. All right, now let's go back. Detect, deter, and annihilate. How the American police state will deal with the outbreak. And this is dated March 17, 2020, year of prophecy, which was actually yesterday. It says, authorized by John Whitehead via the Rutherford Institute. Fear is a primitive impulse, and this is what they're playing on. They're playing on fear. Matter of fact, let's look up this word fear. Let's see what they use for the word fear. An unpleasant, often strong emotion caused by anticipation or awareness of danger. You see? An instance of this emotion, a state marked by this emotion, anxious concern. But the main point, of course, the fear towards the Most High, but an unpleasant, often strong emotion caused by anticipation or awareness of danger. And this is what these people are, and they're in a fear mode, but in a fear mode of panic. That's why it says there's going to be great confusion. It says fear is a primitive impulse, brainless as hunger. And because the aim of horror fiction is the production of the deepest kinds of fears, the genre tends to reinforce some remarkably uncivilized ideas about self-protection. And that's why when you see these zombie movies, it's about self-preservation. It says, in the current crop of zombie stories, the prevailing value for the beleaguered survivors is a sort of siege mentality. To hunker in, to be surrounded by these people, and all you're trying to do is survive from one day to the next. And that's the sentiment in these so-called horror movies, these zombie movies. And that's why there's been so many zombie movies out there, The Walking Dead and so on and so forth. A vigilance so constant and unremitting that it's indistinguishable from the purest paranoia. Terrence Rafferty, New York Times. What do zombies have to do with the U.S. government's plans for dealing with the coronavirus outbreak? Read on and I'll tell you. The zombie narrative was popularized by the hit television series The Walking Dead, in which a small group of Americans attempt to survive in a zombie-ridden post-apocalyptic world where they're not only fighting off flesh-eating ghouls, but cannibalistic humans. And the movie The Road showed you that there's going to come a point where people are going to get so hungry, all humanity is going to go out the window. And if somebody's dead or if they got to kill somebody to eat them, that's what's going to go down. Because hunger has a strange way of messing people up. All right. So now let's go from there real quick to 2 Ezra 15 and 56. Like as thou hast done unto my chosen, saith the Lord, even so shall the Most High do unto thee, and shall deliver thee into mischief. So these devils that fall into these calamities, guess what? This is the beginning of their sufferings, of their paying back what they done to us in this country and abroad. And eventually, the next phase of that would be the nuclear missiles totally annihilating America, Babylon the Great, and the land of Israel. That'll be phase 2. And phase 3 will be when the international bankers and the stragglers go into captivity to finish paying for what they did. Because it's humanly impossible for them to pay all that off. So they have to go through a series of things. All right? But the main thing that they're going to, how they're going to pay is in the kingdom of heaven when they're in hardcore slavery. All right? There was something else that came to mind. It says, thy children shall die of hunger. And we see that happening right now. The ports, there's no shipping containers coming in. The farmers don't have any seeds or extra spare parts to fix their, their equipment. They can't farm. They can't, put stuff in the ground. So if they can't put stuff in the ground, they can't pull stuff out. And the so-called elite, they're in their bunkers now or heading towards their bunkers where they have all the amenities, that they need to withstand this global pandemic, this hard time that's coming upon the earth, Jacob's trouble. That time that was never since there was a time ever. It says, and thou shalt fall through the sword, thy cities shall be broken down. And we see that happening right now. The cities are being broken down. People are going to start going crazy if they can't get any food and start killing each other. There's a reason why the National Guard is getting involved. Because Esau is very strategic. If he has these National Guards already in place, they don't have to get ready. They're already ready. They've been training on how to deal with urban warfare. They've been training on how to roll on the so-called American people, and to contain them, and to bring so-called law and order. It says, and all thine shall perish with the sword in the field. So there's going to be a lot of killing, and this is something that these international bankers want. You got to keep remembering the Georgia Guidestone. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perfect balance with nature. They that be in the mountains shall die of hunger. Why? Because eventually those supplies are going to run out. Or if the supplies don't run out, somebody's going to roll on them and take it. Because people are going to be desperate. And eat their own flesh. So cannibalism is coming back in a hell of a way. And drink their own blood for very hunger of bread and thirst of water. And this is why we're reading here. It says, post-apocalyptic world where they're not only fighting off flesh-eating ghouls, but cannibalistic humans. And in that movie, The Road, they show you that. So these international bankers know that there's going to be all-out anarchy throughout the world. And when they come, they thinking in their mind that once they come out of them bunkers, they're going to be able to implement this new world order where people will accept it because they're so tired of these wars and of all the famine and of all the stuff that's going on. All the infightings and the religious fightings and the, just in general, people behaving the way they behave. So they're going to want to accept that. But what they don't understand is that there is a new world order coming, but it's going to be the new world order of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. For a while there, zombies could be found lurking around every corner, wreaking havoc at gun shows, battling corsets in movies such as Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and running for their lives in 5K charity races. Understandably, zombie fiction plays to our fears and paranoia while allowing us to envision how we and our own would thrive if everything went to hell, meaning everything fell apart. This big band-aid that they got over the economy and over the so-called citizens of America and the world, if that was to unravel, which we're slowly but surely seeing it unraveling. And we lost all our societal supports because that's why the government wants people totally dependent on them. So when they shut things down, you can't be self-sustained. You can't be self-sufficient. And that's what they want. Yet, as journalist Cyrita McFadden points out, while dystopian stories used to reflect our anxieties, now they reflect our reality, mirroring how we as a nation view the world around us, how we as citizens view each other, and most of all, how our government views us. And pretty much, at the end of the day, it's going to be survival of the fittest. As we read in the book of 2nd Ezra 15 and 58. You know, and matter of fact, we read over here in 2nd Ezra 16 and 19, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor. So there's not going to be any pity, because that pity is going to go out the window. They're only going to have pity on themselves and on their immediate family. All right. It says, indeed, the U.S. government has spent a lot of time and energy in recent years using zombies as the model for a variety of crisis scenarios, not too dissimilar from what we are currently experiencing. You know, and this is what's coming. And the zombies are representatives of these people that have lost their goddamn mind, because they've been put in a position where they're paranoid, they're panicky, they're fearful. They are at the lowest point ever. They're stressed out, and they're ready to snap. And like Gerald Celente always says, when people have nothing to lose, they lose it. And this is what's going to bring, you know, the hunger and the famines, you know, and the infightings of different caste groups, the rich and the poor, and just people in general fighting against each other just to be able to survive and eat. Let's go back to 2nd Ezra chapter 15. Let's go back up to 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. Because another thing that we haven't been speaking a lot about, because it's been so much going on, is the race wars. Let's go to a couple of precepts on that. Let's go to Isaiah 13. And let's go to Micah 5. So let's go back. Oh, another one came to mind, Zechariah. So now let's go to Isaiah 13 and 14. And it shall be as a chase roe. Who's going to be as a chase roe? Esau and these other nations. And as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and they shall flee everyone into his own land. Why? Because there's going to be, not only there's going to be class wars, but there's going to be race wars. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through. So these nations that are found among Jake, they're going to be thrust through. And everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. And any of you Israelites out there that's helping the so-called white men, helping Esau, helping the other nations, guess what? Your own people is going to put you to death. It's prophecy. It says their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. So there's going to be no pity. People are going to be in a rage. There's not going to be any form of logic. The only logic is survival. It says their houses shall be spoiled and their wives ravished. See, their houses, whatever they have in the house is going to be taken. Their women are going to be raped. This is written. And as we speak right now, there are down in Brazil, here in America, they're letting prisoners out of prison. Down there, and there it was, I believe it was over 1,500 people that escaped from prison down in Brazil. You know, they're letting people go from these prisons because of the so-called coronavirus thing. And what have we been saying from years ago? These men that's been pent up in these prisons are going to be let out. And they've been locked up so long. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to go out and they're going to be looking for women. They're going to be looking for food. They're going to be looking for liquor. They're going to be looking for women. And they ain't going to be rapping to these women. Hey, baby, how you doing? I want to get to know you. What's your name? What you drinking? You want some? Let me get you another drink. No, it ain't going to be none of that shit. They're going to take what they want. This is a reality of what's coming. And you have these pussified men that call themselves Israelites that have a problem with that. They don't want to talk about that. That's too harsh. Well, guess what? That's the judgment of the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua that's coming. It says their wives ravished. So now let's go from there. Let's go forward to Micah chapter 5 verse 7. And the remnant of Jacob, which are who? The Israelites, shall be in the midst of many people as a dew from the Lord. Now, is not America the great melting pot? Are not Israelites scattered throughout the four corners of the earth? Are not the Israelites among all these nations as a dew upon the herb? As a dew in the midst of many people as a dew from the Lord. Like in the morning when you wake up and you see the dew, it's everywhere. On the grass, on the plants, everywhere. That's how Israel is. As the showers upon the grass that tarrieth not for man, nor waiteth for the sons of men. And the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people as a lion among the beasts of the forest. And when the lion comes through, people are scared. I'm sorry, not people, or people too, but other animals are scared. When the lion comes through, everybody gets to moving, gets to running. Well, the Israelites are that lion among the nations. And they're gonna be running for dear life. As a young lion among the flocks of sheep. And if you have a young lion which is vigorous among a flock of sheep, what you think is gonna happen? It's gonna be heads and legs and shoulders flying everywhere, bloody wool all over the place. As a young lion among the flocks of sheep, who, if he go through, both treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and none can deliver. Because you got to remember, man, Jake has a pent-up anger that they take out on each other. But in that day, that's why the Lord said, who shall rouse them up to the prey? When the Lord unleashes Jake on these other nations and takes that docile spirit off of them, from being afraid of Esau and the other nations, they're going to go buck wild, man. Look what happened out there, what was it, in 1992? Out there in Cali, because of the Rodney King situation. Any Edomite they found, they went to work on them. Reginald Denny, It says, thine hand shall be lifted up upon thine adversaries, and all thine enemies shall be cut off. So it's going to get real, man. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, that I will cut off thy horses and out of the midst of thee, and I will destroy thy chariots, and I will cut off the cities of thy land, and throw down all thy strongholds, because eventually Esau is going to shut everything down. Any mode of transportation, they're taking it. Anything you have, they're taking it. Any form of resource of gas or anything of that nature, they're taking it. And the cities will be cut off. Right now in France, you have police pulling people over, asking for their papers. So pretty much what is that? Those are like checkpoints. It says, and I will cut off witchcrafts out of thine hand, and thou shalt have no more soothsayers. And that's another thing too, Jake, that's into this witchcraft, that's going to go out the window. That's why a lot of you Israelites are going to get cut down and mowed down too. So now let's go to the next one, Zechariah chapter 9, verse 12. Turn you to the stronghold, ye prisoners of hope. So who or what is the stronghold? This knowledge, and wisdom and knowledge shall be, the stability of that times, the strength of salvation. Who are the prisoners of hope? We are, the Israelites. Even today do I declare that I will render unto thee double. When I have bent Judah for me, filled the bow with Ephraim. So when Judah, the southern kingdom, and Ephraim, the northern kingdom, come together and raise up thy sons, O Zion, against thy sons, O Greece, and made thee as a sword of a mighty man. So there's going to be a great race war. Jake against Esau. And all the other nations are going to be in the mix. Let's go from there to Isaiah chapter 11. This music is fitting for this. It's one of them Planet of the Apes movies. This a fitting song for this. Isaiah 11:14. But they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west, and we're in the western hemisphere. They shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hands upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. So it's gonna be nasty out here, man. Because the Lord is gonna raise up the Israelites against you Edomites, finally. That spirit that Jake had, to be afraid of Esau, the Lord's gonna take that spirit off, man. And wait till we get to the kingdom. All bets are off then. And the Lord shall be seen over them with the what? Chariots. And his arrows shall go forth as the lightning, which are the beams from the chariots. And the Lord power shall blow the trumpet, because that is the final trump, not Donald, and shall go with whirlwinds of the south. And these are the chariots. And this is why there's so many videos and footage and pictures of these chariots around the world. Big, gigantic spacecrafts, which are the chariots of the Lord. The Lord of hosts shall defend them, and they shall devour and subdue with sling stones. Because Jake is going to get busy, man. And they shall drink and make a noise as through wine, and they shall be filled like bowls and as the corners of the altar. Meaning what? There's going to be a lot of bloodshed. It says, and the Lord their power shall save them in that day as a flock of his people, because you have an election of the nation of Israel that will be delivered, the elect. For they shall be as the stones of a crown lifted up as an ensign upon his land, which is a crown that has stones in it, is very beautiful to look upon. So that's a representation of the chariots and the lights and the way that they're going to be decked out. And the magnificent way that the elect will be delivered from here. Elder Apostle Tara's wife had a vision where she saw the inside of the chariot, and she said it was decked out. So you could imagine the nicest car you could think of, the nicest crib you could think of. When you go in there, you'd be like, wow, that's pretty much an outhouse compared to how the chariots are going to be decked out. And remember, you got that big, gigantic chariot that Yahweh Shai is coming. You could only imagine the magnificence of the outside and the inside of that ship. It says, for how great is his goodness and how great is his beauty. Corn shall make the young men cheerful, and new wine the maids. So these bread and circuses are dead. They've outlived their usefulness. They don't need them anymore. But if they do bring him back, they bring him back. But the bottom line is that they've used them to keep the people exactly where they wanted them. In constant distraction, constant entertainment. So let's go back to this a little bit. It says, making the circuses case is easy. Americans' addiction to entertainment has been compared to the circuses of ancient Rome, and that's what it is. It's a addiction, no different than drugs, alcohol, prescription drugs, or whatever. We can and do spend much of our free time watching Drek on TV, like half-pint brawlers about a company of self-styled midget wrestlers who attack each other with staple guns and broken bottles. In fact, in 2009, people over age 15 spent an average of 58% of their leisure time watching television, playing games, and using the internet, an increase of 16% from 2003. And these stats go back. This isn't even something that was written recently. This was written back in 2011. So you're talking about 9 years ago. So how much more now? Digital age. When entertainment dominates a society, it changes more than the culture. It also reshapes the economy. you can see that circuses are where the money is. From the rise of digital entertainment, which has steered enormous amounts of discretionary income toward digital content and the devices that run it. Just bear with me 1 second. I just want to get this preset. I don't want to forget it. It says laptops, televisions, gaming consoles, smartphones. In the decade leading up to the 2008 financial crisis, the only major industry other than healthcare that consistently showed strong real growth was consumer electronics. Now, why is that? Well, there's a very good reason for it. Daniel 12:4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, meaning the Bible. Because for a long time, this Bible has been a big mystery. But now it's open. The seals are open. Yahushua opened the seals, and then he reopened them, beginning with a man by the name of Elder Abba Bivens, who, if you can receive it, is Elijah the prophet, John the Baptist, so on and so forth. And John the Baptist did not fall out of the truth. He fulfilled his mission, and his position is secure, even to the time of the end, because at the end, that's when it started speaking. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. So this knowledge that shall be increased is talking about what? It's talking about the technology that Esau has through these electronics. Because there had to be a point in time where the Most High would use this same technology to bring forth and push forth his word on a grand scale. 2 Ezra 6:20. And when the world that shall begin to vanish away shall be finished, then will I show these tokens. So how do we know we're at the end of the world? Because the tokens are the signs that the Lord spoke of. We're seeing it right now through the internet. The invention of the internet. The books, which are what? The Bible, shall be open, meaning what? They're going to be broken down and given the right sense of. The book shall be open before the firmament. What is the firmament? The ozone layer. What is out in the firmament? These different satellites that emit these signals across the world as to where you're able to see the truth being broken down all over the place, all over the planet. And they shall see all together, and everybody in the world is seeing it. That's why that particular entertainer came by the camp and said, "Y'all are great minister, huh? Well, I need a blessing," or something along those lines. You see? Because everybody knows about this truth. They just don't really push it out there. What they do is they slander us, or they ridicule it, mock it, but it's out there. It's gained momentum. It's gaining momentum. And there's nothing that Esau can do to stop it. All right, so that's how we know we're at the end of this thing, through the technology. Making the bread case is harder, for it is tied to America's becoming a consumer society over the last 4 decades. And that's exactly what happened. It went from a country, so-called country, that was selling and making manufacturing to a consuming nation. The final phase in that transition, globalization, got underway in the early 1990s. Trade imbalances. This exemplifies another problem that vexed the Romans and faces us today. Dominant economies tend to import more than they export. So if you're importing more than you're exporting, that means you're not making as much. The nations that are sending their stuff to you and you're taking in their goods, they're getting richer while you're pretty much losing because you're constantly buying their wares. Creating trade imbalances. The manufactured stuff of life, basic items such as food, clothing, cars, phones, and furniture, the bread as opposed to the circuses, costs less to buy if produced elsewhere than if made by a highly developed country's own citizen. The result is a loss of jobs at home. And now you're starting to see the effects of that, because now the ports that carry the containers, the shipping containers for these things, are not coming in. Supplies are dwindling. These grocery stores, supermarkets, or whatever the case is, are holding back certain inventory. And the worse it gets, the more they're going to ration it out, to where now when you go to these different supermarkets, and there was I'm not sure about now. I haven't been to a restaurant in a couple of days, but even in the restaurants there were security guards in case anything broke out. One of the last places I went to, which was a Panera Bread, they used to have stuff out, different types of sugars and all of that for the coffee. Now they have to ration it from the back to you, in fear that somebody will come in and grab the stuff and run out. That's how bad it's getting. So pretty much I'm going to leave it there. The men of the Lord, and these two articles are in the description box. You brothers could read more of it. I mean, you may find some more good info that you could use to do your own lessons if you desire. But the bottom line is that we're going to be all right. If we continue doing what the Lord commanded us to do, we're going to be all right. Isaiah 65:11. I started 11. This is dealing with the 2/3 that are not getting themselves prepared. They're not getting ready. They're not taking heed. They're blowing the Lord off. I wanted to do a lesson earlier, and I may still do it depending on how the Spirit flows. I wanted to say, where you scoffers at, man? Where the scoffers at? What happened? All this mouth you guys had a couple of months ago, 6 months ago, what happened? Where y'all at? Cat got your tongue? What's going on? Why y'all so quiet? Ain't got nothing to say now? Huh? What happened to all that mouth? What happened to all that shit you were talking? Where y'all at? This is time to talk shit, right? But yeah, they that forsake the Lord, that forget my holy mountain, that prepare a table for that troop, and that furnish a drink offering unto that number. It says, therefore will I number you to the sword. And you scoffers, you've numbered to the sword, man. It says, and you shall all bow down to the slaughter. And you're going to bow down to the slaughter. You made mockery of the Lord's word. You made mockery of his men. The Lord is going to make mockery of you when your fear cometh upon you, man. You're going to get it. Because when I called, you did not answer. When I spake, you did not hear, but did evil before my eyes. What you do? Pretty much you ridiculed the Lord's word. You ridiculed the Lord's name. And did choose that wherein I delighted not. And y'all went on your own way. Therefore thus saith the Lord power, behold, my servant shall eat, but you shall be hungry. Behold, my servant shall drink, but you shall be thirsty. Behold, my servant shall rejoice, but you shall be ashamed. And you're going to be ashamed, and you're going to be in fear. You're going to be all fucked up, man, for talking that shit. Behold, my servant shall sing for joy of heart, but you shall cry for sorrow of heart, and shall howl for vexation of spirit. You're going to be howling like a goddamn wolf. But you're not going to be howling because of happiness. You're going to be howling because of pain. You're going to be howling because of fear. But the men of the Lord are going to be straight. The men and women of the Lord are going to be straight. So pretty much, this has been Bread and Circuses are dead. They may revive them again, but they don't really need to anymore because they already used it for what they needed. But it may come back, to try to make it seem like everything is hunky-dory, But the bottom line is they've used this distraction enough. Now they want people's attention. And that's why they cut off every avenue where people are forced to deal specifically with this, with this issue that they got out there, regardless of if it's real or not. Because shit is shutting down everywhere. All right, so with that, I pray that you brothers have been edified. Until the next time I say shalom. The men of the Lord, and these two articles are in the description box. You brothers could read more of it. I mean, you may find some more good info that you could use to do your own lessons if you desire. But the bottom line is that we're going to be all right.